Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the book Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz. This was my December 2018 TBR pick, I think, and I finished it in January, and I have to say, I was quite surprised by how much I ended up liking this. I didn't like it as much as I thought I would originally, but it did surprise me with how much I did like it. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and there's a lot of things about it that I think I was caught off guard with, and I think that overall the pacing of the story kind of led me to believe one thing was going to happen, and it didn't. And I liked it, but I think the pacing too also kind of hindered the story in a lot of ways, and I will explain that after I've talked about the synopsis. So this is very much a character-driven story. There's really not any plot that's given with the story, and it basically follows these two kids named Aristotle and Dante who become friends over this one summer, and it pretty much is their friendship blossoming. And Aristotle, who is our main protagonist that we are seeing the perspective of, he starts to understand that Dante has a huge part of his life after meeting him. He not only teaches Ari how to swim, but he teaches Ari a lot about things about life and death and pretty much everything else under the sun. Like I said, there's not really any plot to it. There are some very important events that happen throughout the book that kind of would be spoilery for me to discuss, so I'm going to avoid talking about these significant events that are within the novel, but that's pretty much the entirety of the story, is you following Ari and Dante as they are going through their friendship. And it's a lot of retrospective material because obviously in this story Ari is talking as if he is reflecting on it several years after the story. So there's a lot of things about, you know, what Ari was feeling at the time versus what Ari is feeling at the current moment that you are reading the story. It is placed in 1987, so that adds a lot of historical context in terms of the story. Ari and Dante are both also Mexican-American, which is interesting because that is a representation I don't see very often. And Benjamin Alire Saenz, I believe, is also Mexican-American. As you can tell, it has gotten numerous awards since its release, and rightly so. It definitely is a story that I think deserves those awards, but I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as I had hoped to, but I still truly enjoyed it. So some of my quarrels with this novel, I think for one, was the pacing of the story and the overall lead up to what really the whole story was about. For much of the story, I really didn't see a point in learning about these characters. I didn't understand why I was following them. I didn't understand anything about what was the most significant aspect of learning about this whole story, which, if there is no plot to a story, I want to know why I'm following these characters, and usually that's supposed to be kind of fairly early on as to why I'm following them, as opposed to following a plot. Unfortunately, this did not give me anything about why I was supposed to be following these characters until much later in the story. About pretty much the end of the story, you find out why you are following these characters in the first place and what is so significant about this friendship in particular. And while I did not like that extensive lead up to that, I did truly enjoy the relationship that was between Aristotle and Dante. I think that their friendship was one that was built on true understanding of each other and even misunderstanding of each other, because Ari and Dante both are very, very different individuals. Ari was kind of more in the poorer section of the town that they live in, whereas Dante was born with a little bit more privilege. His father was an English professor, his mother is a psychiatrist or psychologist, one of the two, and Ari unfortunately does not have that. His father is unfortunately struck with PTSD because of things that he experienced as a Marine in Vietnam, and his mother is a teacher in a Catholic school. So Ari did not have all the same things that Dante grew up with, but I think that because of that misunderstanding, it made it a lot easier for the both of them to come together, because they were able to learn from each other because of those misunderstandings they have. But they also understood each other in a lot of different ways, as they had a lot of things in common, and Ari, in all honesty, really changed a lot in terms of his character because of Dante, and I believe Dante changed a lot because of Ari as well. I think overall my biggest quarrel was, like I said, the pacing of the novel. I felt like I was just kind of trudging through the novel for the majority of it, and it was interesting though because it almost seemed like I had to work for what I was wanting out of the ending. I think that in a way that works for your story sometimes, because it gives your reader a reason to keep going through the story, is to find out what is on the other side of all of this. But at the same time, I would think that something that is so character driven like this, something like what is the reason between Ari and Dante's relationship, would be something much more prevalent in the beginning of the story, and you kind of pick up hints of it as you go along, but nothing is for sure revealed until like the last like 20 pages or so of the novel. And I liked that, but at the same time I was kind of like, I spent so much of the novel with no real ideas to why these two are so important to each other. But from a enjoyment standpoint, I did like it. I did think that it was really cute, and especially when I got to the end, I understood what was going on, and so it made the story a little bit more enjoyable. But overall, I did enjoy it. I did think that it was something that I would recommend to other people. But the thing is I feel like you have to kind of go into this novel knowing you're not going to know why these two are important to each other right away, whereas most character-driven stories, I think, kind of let the reader know right off the bat about that. So anyway, those are some of my more general thoughts of Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Saenz. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot because there wasn't a whole lot to really talk about with this novel. I did like the writing of it. Obviously, it was something that was incredibly enjoyable. I loved Ari as a character, but my biggest quarrels with it were just the pacing. If you would like to let me know, if you are Mexican American yourself and you've read this novel, what you thought of the representation within it, please let me know down in the comments below, because I'd like to hear how people that, you know, are Mexican American that have read this book, how they felt about it, if they felt it was valid, if they felt it was actually really good. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this review of this book. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already and you'd like to be, hit the button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!